Oh, right here. Okay, welcome to Wednesday night Bible study. And the first thing I want to show you tonight is on the book table, the Better Way Family Coalition book table, established October 2025. So these are the flags that we're going to give out, right? And Angie and Junior helped pick those out. So let me read this to you. Now look, it's a kid's book, but this is one of the titles. Now here's the crazy thing. If you would have handed me this book when I was a kid, I'd be like, why are you telling me this for? But I think it's kind of funny. It goes quick because it's just, I don't know what age group. So let me get to the first page. All right. So it starts out as, here's the name of it. He is he. He is not she. All right. It gets better. I cracked up laughing. He is he. He is a son. He is a brother. He is a father, not a mother. All right? All right? He is an uncle. He is a grampy. He is a buddy, not a Grammy. All right? He is he, definitely. Biologically, he is he. He is a leader. He is a mentor. He is a world-changing inventor. He is a pastor. That might cause some people problems, the ones that have women preachers, right? So that was definitely a dig there. He is courageous, a lifesaver. When he is he has purpose. And he is free to be with God, to be who God meant him to be. The end. So that's one of the books. Now, why in the world you'd have to explain that to a kid? Not sure. But that's because they have books just the opposite of it, right? So that was a good choice. Thank you. He showed that to me and it said, he is a pastor. You know, I thought, well, that's definitely, because Joyce Myers wouldn't like that, would she? I don't know if you even know who Joyce Myers is. I tell you, she had a pretty good quote on the radio. She would say, when I get out of bed in the morning and my feet hit the ground, I want all hell to tremble. I said, all right. You know, not that I make a habit of listening to Joyce Myers, but I did that day anyway. So, and there's, on Sunday, we're going to go ahead and put the book table back in the back. There might be some resource that you might know about, not know about, that there's going to be teenage books and things for adults. And we also have Bibles to put on that table. So there might be some things that maybe as a parent you would be interested in where we got them from and whatever anyway. And then we'll just take some time to pray over that on Sunday. And again, we're just going to go down there. We're not going to confront anybody. I think it'll speak for itself. They'll go to one table, and then they'll go to another table, and they'll see the difference, right? You know, and especially as things change, and maybe I mean, you would know. I don't know why I called you. Good grief, Gretchen. You would know. In our libraries here, are there any books like that in the school libraries here? Any kind of inclusive books? Yeah. Do they have? You know, you got to remember, I'm not. I went to Christian school and then we homeschooled. Do they actually have a library at the school? Right. Well, one of the reasons why this group, had started this table that's down there anyway, is because they specialize in whatever books that are so bad they got banned at. Jamie, do you know if they got books like that? Yeah. The but especially like if you're around like in Chicago or any probably Knoxville, and you got a kid going there, probably would not be a bad idea to sit down with a book that's you would think would be common sense, just so that they would understand that when they hear another version of that, they'll know it's wrong, right? And those are things that I assumed you didn't have to tell a kid when I was growing up, right? I mean, you pretty much knew he is he, right? You also knew that it might not have been politically correct, but you also knew there were different roles, right? I mean, there were just some things that men typically did and things that women did. Different occupations that could cross over, but it wasn't very often that they did that. Everything from hairdressers or whatever. I mean, most of you grew up in the same generation that I did. Hairdressers, when I was growing up, were predominantly female. That is not necessarily the case today. You may have a male hairdresser, right? Those things. And believe me, they would talk about, well, but that's just the way it was. I didn't know anybody in high school that wanted to be a hairdresser. I don't know. I don't know about you, Arnold. Did you know anybody in high school that wanted to be a hairdresser? That was a boy. Lots of women, not boys. Florists were kind of like the same thing, although until I met Tracy. And the first time I met him, I'll change it a little bit, but he told me basically that he's the first redneck florist. So anyway, things have changed since then for sure. And so that was a neat book, but there's all kinds of books like that will be made available. So let's ask God to bless that. All right, any prayer requests tonight? Oh, yeah. Napakiak. So that village Job's wife had surgery. That village got about 4 feet of water in it. And he just put on Facebook, if I wasn't going to Africa next week, I'd go up there. He put on Facebook that he desperately needs people to come help. He's willing to offer room and board, but they need to put houses back on foundation. Winter's like right around the corner. And I've been to that village. I preached in that village. This is really going to hurt them, right? I mean, it was already a rough place to begin with, but to dump 4 feet of water in that whole place. And the church was the only high ground, so they all went to the church to be safe. And his wife just had surgery. They can't go home just yet because she can't fly. But just pray for them. Did Israel say that St. Mary's got affected?
Yeah, they had some days. I hadn't heard from them, but they were in that same area.
Right. Now, where Israel's house is, I don't think a flood would get that because it's like way up, right, Gabe? But the rest of the village isn't like that. So pray for them, and I wish I could, and if there's somebody here that felt like they wanted to do that, I could put you in touch with them. He just needs, somebody had a couple weeks or whatever to go up and help him. He's willing to feed you and give you a place to stay. Getting there is not overly easy, but doable, right, Gabe? Right. All right, so we'll pray for Joe. And it's different now that you met him. Really nice family, and to understand that's what he's going home to. So, and it's a huge opportunity. If Christians were to go there and really help that village out, it would mean so much to that village. It would help them in ministry. All right, and then while we're on that part, so I fly out Sunday night after church. I go to D.C. I'm meeting Tom Gondervan and 5 people from Australia. And then Pastor Pease, that's preached here, and his son are coming from the UK. They're going to meet me there. And then myself and Beverly from Pennsylvania, and then 2 college girls are going to leave from here. We're all going to converge on Zambia, spend a couple of days at the farm, then go up to the lake, do some I got 1 Filipino doctor, no nurses. So, no nurses. Yeah, I know it's hard. So I don't know if there's any nurses that want to jump on this trip. Yeah, so they got me, and we're going to train those 2 girls real quick. So pray for that, and then we're going to put the roof on church number 6 when we get up there. So a lot of moving around and logistics for that. All right, anybody else? Oh, Frida is in the hospital, which is Sheila's sister, and they just lost a sister. So her blood pressure was like 2-something over 100 today, so it wasn't good. But they got it back down again. I'm gonna go. She's in the hospital, right here in town. They think she can go home tonight, but right when I called, she didn't call me before church. Right, they were waiting on the test results to see if they were going to move her, or she just gets to go home and see her heart doctor. Whatever it was, they got it to go away, so that was good. All right. Okay. All right. Okay, anybody else? All right, over here, anybody tonight? Yes, 100%. I heard it, and I didn't write it was in Daniel, and I think it was Daniel 7 or Daniel 9. And it said, basically, that a man would rise up and there would be peace. But it wasn't necessarily an overly positive prediction. And listen, one thing we always got to do is whenever you see overwhelming, all kinds of people talking about how good somebody's doing, for us, don't drink the Kool-Aid. Even though there are some benefits that I like about some of the things that are happening, but when I watched him go into the UN and everybody's talking about over and over again, Arabics, Egyptians, all of these people are saying this could not happen if it wasn't for Donald Trump. This could not happen if it wasn't for the diplomacy. We couldn't do this. Only he could do this. Only he. All right, well, that makes me a little nervous, right? You know, because for sure, and this got me in trouble one time. I was preaching in New York years ago, and remember when Obama got elected, some of the newscasts were using this word, and it was like Old Testament stuff, and it was like the Messiah. So I mentioned one time in a church, I was visiting and preaching, and I probably shouldn't have done it because I'm comfortable with my people. I could do that here. And I said that Obama, I don't think he was the Antichrist, but whenever you're calling somebody the Messiah, I would definitely be careful with that, right? There's only one of those. Well, this would kind of fit that same thing. And I wish I would have remembered the verse, because when I read it in Daniel and in this prophecy, I was like, woo, that fits it. And that's what the article that I read talked about, how that you know, that the only time that we know there's going to be true peace in this world is when? During the millennial reign, right? Up until that point, if anybody has it, you're taking credit away from the Lord. So it was interesting, and so it's just a thing to say that it makes you nervous. It just makes you nervous when everybody points to one person all the time, right? Because of that, you know, and here's something weird. And I wouldn't watch The Simpsons for nothing. I wouldn't do it. But did you know that The Simpsons had a prophecy and the thing came true? I mean, they show him. Well, like I said, I don't pay them any attention because you got to lose your brain to watch that stuff. And if you do watch it, I'm sorry. Okay, but it's something that was filmed several years ago, it had a 2024 Donald Trump sign in it, like 5 years ago. And then they showed a picture in the Simpsons cartoon of a guy from Egypt, somebody else, and Trump with their hand on the globe. You can go look at it. And they just took that picture in real life. I was like, well, that's a little too weird for me. So, all I know, strange things are happening, look to Jesus. Because when Bart Simpson starts making prophecies and they come true, we're all in trouble. All right, let's pray. Father, thank you for the word. And Lord, to say the least, it is a very interesting time to be alive. From AI to COVID to our current political situations, the way our world is, the Charlie Kirk thing, it is very evident that something is happening. You would have to have your head in the sand not to recognize that. And Lord, we know this, that the only real answer to this is just follow you. Through all of this crazy stuff, that we know that you can lead the way. And I only have one Messiah, and his name's Jesus Christ. And there will only be one person that I will give it credit to for peace, and that's you. And I know, Father, in your time that'll happen. Lord, I pray for Frida tonight and their family. Lord, they've just been through so much lately, and just ask. Those sisters need each other. So please help her get better. Please help them figure out what her blood pressure went up for, and if there's a blockage or anything, that you'd help them take care of that. And I ask that you would do that. For Lila Phillips also, Lord, a sweet lady. Lord, I just pray, Lord, that you would be kind and gracious to her. And Lord, as she recovers from breaking a hip, I know she's got good family. Lord, I just pray that every day, everybody that takes care of her would be kind. Everybody around her, that she would know and feel that. And Lord, I just thank you, Father, for her testimony and for that family. And Lord, I pray for Job and Napakiak, that village that got put underwater. Lord, I pray that you would be with that you would please help them. Lord, as those people are trying to get their life back together, Lord, I pray you would impress it on people's hearts that might be able to go up and help Job, that there would be some people that would be willing to do that. I pray you'd be with his trip to Zambia. Lord, with all the logistics there. And Lord, I ask that you would bless this book table. Lord, that it might be a testimony to other people around that there is definitely a better way. And Father, I just thank you for loving us. Thank you. As we look at your word tonight, we ask this in your precious name. Amen. Okay, if you have your Bibles with you, and then let's go ahead and start here. Let's go to Exodus chapter 7, and let me get this lapel on really quick. Exodus chapter 7. And then, of course, we've got Halloween. I did this once before, and then I haven't done it for a few years. I think I did it when I first got here. I was, there's just so much around us that I think we get used to and really don't understand the ramifications of things that we think are innocent and then they end up not being innocent. And I mentioned the other night about Taylor Swift, and I'm definitely not in a genre of being a Swiftie, but there's a lot of little girls that do, and for the most part, you would think that was absolutely harmless, right? I mean, they like her music. She seems to be nice enough. My nephew, ironically, has a picture hugging her back when she first got started so many years ago. And I mentioned the other day about her new album. I just heard about it. Well, I made a mistake because everybody's talking about the lyrics, and I Googled them. I can't repeat them. If I repeated them right now, you wouldn't be happy. I was like, whoa. Okay, back like we were talking before. If you worked on a construction site, if you worked around guys, although it wasn't right, you would expect men to be vulgar when it's just men. Not that it's okay, but back a few years ago, you weren't used to women talking out loud, openly vulgar, right? Well, now there's like no shame. I mean, no shame at all. You know, well, that's a concern. Remember, because so what you thought was innocent, and then you let it have influence, and then they come out with a, well, their excuse is she's matured in her music. Well, she's matured in her music, all right. You're gonna have to be 21 to listen to it, right? You know, there's no doubt about that. Well, this is kind of along the same idea, which is why I mentioned that, and that is about Halloween. But before we get started in it, let me just read this to you in Exodus chapter 7, and then I want you to look at verse 27. Exodus chapter 7. And did I write this down right? I thought I did, and maybe I didn't. Exodus chapter 7, verse 22. Okay? And Moses and Aaron, let's go, yeah, we'll pick it up in 20, and then I'll just explain it to you. And Moses and Aaron did so as the Lord commanded, and he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the river in the sight of Pharaoh, and in the sight of his servants, and all the waters, that the water in the river were turned to blood. So you remember God told Moses, go tell Pharaoh, let my people go. And if he doesn't let you, then these are things that you're going to do. One of them was turn water into blood. So he goes down there, and through the power of God, Moses lifts up his rod, and the Nile River turns to blood. You know that story? Okay. All right. So, and Moses and Aaron did so as the Lord commanded, and he lifted up the rod, smote the waters that were in the river in the sight of Pharaoh and the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood. And the fish that was in the river died, and the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river. And there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. And the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantments. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, neither did he hearken unto them as the Lord had said. And Pharaoh turned and went into his house, neither did he set his heart to this also. And all the Egyptians digged around about the river for water to drink, for they could not drink of the water that was in the river. So when this happened, God stood there with Moses, and miraculously he changed the water into blood. All the fish died. Well, then Pharaoh turned, and you're going to look at this word, magicians. He turned to their magicians, and then what did they use? What did they use to do that? They used their enchantments. Okay? This isn't science fiction. If you believe the first part, you're going to have to believe the second part. How many of you believe that Moses did turn water into blood? Do you believe that? Okay. Now, he did that through the power of God, right? Okay? Well, when then Pharaoh did it, and his magicians did it, they did it through their enchantments. Where did they get their power from? Why would God empower Pharaoh to do the same thing that Moses just did? That'd be counterproductive. In fact, Jesus said it this way, why would Belial cast out Belial? Because they said that Jesus was a devil. And he said, well, how can I be a devil? Why would a devil cast out devils? So we know God didn't turn the water into blood, but there was actual water turned into blood. And there were magicians that knew how to gain power from the spiritual world through enchantments. They opened themselves up to another realm. That realm gave them power to turn the water into blood. Now, so the reason why I mention that, I want you just to know that in the Bible, that people knew how to get in touch with the spiritual world, with the devil, with his fallen angels. Why would the devil be interested in this anyways? Well, here's God. Egypt is a pagan society. Who's ruling that pagan society? See, we don't give the devil enough credit. He has his hands in more things than you think he does. And if you don't think the devil has his hands in government, that would be insane, right? He has his hands in government. He has his hands all over the place. All right, just like he's got here, he had a vested interest in this story because he doesn't want this to succeed. He doesn't want the Israel to leave because he knows this is the bloodline the Messiah is coming through. So he's got a vested interest in that. So that is a biblical thing where I just showed you that magicians or witches were real. They actually could get hold. Now, can we still get a hold of God today? Can we still feel the power of God today? So why can't we feel the power of Satan? If we can have a service that is spirit-filled, could you not have an event that is demonic-filled? Right? In my day and age, it's Ozzy Osbourne, right? Biting heads off of bats and all those kinds of crazy stuff. And a lot of preaching was done about stuff like that, right? So let's go on to another story because I won't make it all the way through this. Go to 1 Samuel chapter 28 and verse 7, one of my favorites. 1 Samuel, let me get there, chapter 1 and verse 28. 1 Samuel chapter 21. I'm sorry, 1 Samuel 28, verse 7. 1 Samuel 28, verse 7. All right, so now I'm going to have to do this a little bit or we're going to be all over the place. So Saul was at a point in his life where God had quit talking to him. He can't pray anymore. God's not listening to him. He's about ready to go into battle, and he wants to know if he's going to win or not. Now, he had previously did a mass house cleaning and got rid of all the witches in that area. So now, whatever witches are there are now undercover. So he begins to ask, he said, are there any witches or are there anybody I can talk to because God won't listen to me? I want to reach Abraham. Now, do you believe the Bible's true? Do you believe it's true? Samuel, or Saul, wanted to talk to Samuel. Problem is Samuel's dead. He's dead. He knew that those witches had the ability to somehow cross over into that realm and reach people that were dead. He knew that. So he knows he can't talk to God, so he's going to go this route. All right? And again, if you can't believe this and you can't believe the Bible, the part about Jesus going to the cross, it's the same book. Okay? All right, so in chapter 27 and verse 7, then said Paul unto his servant, seek me a woman that hath a familiar spirit. Then what kind of a spirit? A familiar spirit, a demon inside of her. A familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said to him, behold, there is a woman that hath a familiar spirit in Endor. And Saul disguised himself. Why did he disguise himself? Because he was the king, and this woman would not have talked to him because he just like killed a whole bunch of witches. So if he would not have disguised himself, this woman wouldn't have talked to him. All right? And Saul disguised himself and put on other raiment, and he went and 2 men with him. And they came to the woman by night, and he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, or by the demon that's inside of you. Use that demon to cross over into the other world. Okay? I'm not making it up. You can read it here with me. And bring me him up, whom I shall name unto thee. And the woman said unto him, behold, thou knowest what Saul has done, she doesn't know it's Saul, how he has cut off those that have familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life to cause me to die? And Saul sware to her by the Lord. That's the wrong thing. You're swearing by the Lord while you're trying to talk to a witch. All right? And Saul sware to her by the Lord, saying, as the Lord liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. Then said the woman, whom shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, bring me up Samuel. And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice. And the woman spake to Saul, saying, why hast thou deceived me? For thou art Saul. The moment she tapped into that demon, That demon gave her perception she did not have before, and she immediately knew the guy in front of her was the king. And she said, why did you trick me? All right. It goes on to say, and Saul then said the woman, and he said, and when the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice, and the woman spake to Saul, saying, why hast thou deceived me, for thou art Saul? And the king said unto her, be not afraid, for what sawest thou? And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods, little g. So when you see a capital G in the Bible, what's that talking about? God. If they're little g's, what's that talking about? False gods. Okay? So I see gods descending to and from the earth. That means right now there is a highway of souls leaving this planet to the spiritual world, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay? All right. It says, and when the woman saw, and the king said unto her, be not afraid, for what sawest thou? And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods ascending out of the earth. And he said unto her, what form is he of? And she said, an old man cometh up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel. So somehow these demons got word. Where is Samuel? Now let's do a little bit of Bible trivia. Where is Samuel right now? If you know where Samuel is in this story, raise your hand. 1, 2. All right, Arnold got it. Paradise. Okay, what's on the other side of paradise? Sheol. Okay, and how do we know hell is on the other side of paradise? How do we have proof of that? Luke chapter 16. Yep, the rich man. Okay, all right. So these evil spirits get a hold of Samuel. Samuel comes back, right? Okay, and he said unto her, what form is he of? And she said, an old man cometh up, and he is covered with a mantle. Okay, and Samuel said to Saul, why hast thou disquieted me to bring me up? Saul answered, I am in sore distress, for the Philistines make war against me, and God is departed from me, and answereth me no more, neither by prophets nor by dreams. Therefore I have called thee, that thou mayest make known unto me what I shall do. Then said Samuel, wherefore thou dost ask of me, seeing the Lord is departed from thee, and is become thine enemy? And the Lord hath done to him as he spake by me, for the Lord hath rent the kingdom out of thine hand, and hath given it to thy neighbor, even to David. Because thou obeyedest not the voice of the Lord, nor executed his fierce wrath upon the Amalekites. Moreover, the Lord will also deliver Israel with thee into thine hand of the Philistines. And tomorrow, look at this, and tomorrow thou and thy sons shalt thou and thy sons be with me. So he tells them, tomorrow you and your sons are going to be with me. What does that mean? They're going to die, right? Now, how do I know? Now, is Samuel in paradise, or is he in Sheol or hell? He's in paradise. So when Samuel says to Saul, you're going to be with me, I'm assuming Saul, when he died, went to paradise. Now, there's some people that would disagree with that. We're not going to move mountains and stones to prove that. I'm under that, only because the Holy Spirit did indwell Saul at one point, and I don't know as if he would do that to a total lost man. And another reason why I do that is because one of the people in the Bible that committed suicide was Saul. He was wounded and he fell on a sword. And then when I have to do a funeral of a suicide, I use that verse to give comfort that I do believe if you commit suicide that you still go to heaven, right? And that's a whole other thing on another night. Okay, so anyway, the Lord also shall deliver the host of Israel into thine hand. Then Saul fell straightway along the earth and was sore afraid. Now, those are two stories in the Bible where I just proved to you demons are real, evil spirits are real, magicians are real, enchantments are real. Those are real things. In the New Testament, some people got saved that was into witchcraft, and when they got saved, they burned their books and they burned their enchantments. Now that we know this, I was driving over to Greg and Terry's house through that neighborhood, right by Ron's house, but on the back side of Ron's house. I'm driving along and you see a pumpkin over here, and then you see this little thing over here, and then there's this crazy yard, and they may hear this on Facebook and I'm going to be in trouble. There's this crazy yard. Have you been to Home Depot or Lowe's lately? They've got that giant skeleton in the low. How many have seen that, right? It's $400. It's also 14 feet tall. This yard has 4 of them. Not one, 4 of them. And they're not this big. They're 14 feet tall. One's holding a guy by his head in his hand. I'm thinking $400, $800, $1,600. Somebody, I can't say that, never mind. I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm telling you what, I'm going, in whose world? Then I'm thinking about the poor neighbor that's across the street who's having coffee in the morning, and that's your view for the whole month of Halloween, is these 15-foot tall plastic skeletons. And they're dark. You know, there's witches there. These are skeletons with blood hanging on them. They got a guy holding by the head, other guy half a body and arms and stuff. And I'm thinking, whatsoever things are good and whatsoever things are pleasant, think on these things. That's not pleasant. Right? Okay? So would if you drove by and saw that, would you say that was godly or worldly, to say the least? Okay? So now the question is, why would we then take our kids and allow them to be influenced like that? All right. And I know, look, by the way, I know this isn't necessarily popular, but I at least got to do it every 3 years, and then you don't have to listen to it next year. All right. Let me read this to you. Okay? And you can, by the way, do this on your own. And this is Gemini. He's not a Christian. I asked him. The origins of Halloween are complex and trace back several centuries. Number 1, the ancient Celtic festival of Shaman, S-M-H-A-I-N. And by the way, when you go to Africa and you ask for the witch doctor, that's what he's called. All right? When and where shaman pronounced Soen, that's how I would pronounce it, because it's S-A-M-H-A-I-N, was a pagan festival. Listen to this. This is the origins of Halloween, done on October 31st or November 1st. I didn't write it. Was a pagan festival celebrated by the Celts in ancient Ireland, Scotland, and parts of France over 2,000 years ago. So right around the death of Christ. It traditionally marked the end of summer and the harvest and the beginning of the dark, cold winter, the dark half of the year. The spirit world, the Celts believed that on the night of October 31st, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead became thinnest, allowing spirits and ghosts and fairies to pass into the mortal world. Well, why in the world would you want to go out that night? Right? I mean, if that's true, why? I'm not, you can go on a walk that night? You try to take a Zambian in a graveyard at night. You couldn't make them do it. Cannot make them do it. Won't do it. They want nothing to do with that place. No way. All right? So the spirit world, the Celts believed that on the night of October 31st, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead became the thinnest, allowing spirits, ghosts, and fairies to pass. Now, we know that the Witch of Endor was able to do that. We know that the Celts, that holiday on the 31st is marked by that veil between the two worlds being the thinnest and allowing access for the spirits to come and go. All right? Large bonfires were lit, often to relight hearth fires for the winter and to ward off evil spirits. Costumes. People wore costumes often made of animal heads and skins to confuse the spirits and to disguise themselves so they would not be recognized and harmed. You go over to Africa, and I'm telling you 100%, I will do it this time. I'll go in a village, did it one time and I kind of regretted it. They'll take a tire and with a little razor blade, they'll lay a tire flat and they'll take a razor blade and they'll cut really, really, really thin, almost thread-like pieces of rubber. They'll use it for rope. Well, I had helped a lady who had got bit by a Gavone viper. She was pregnant and I helped her by getting her to the hospital. They told me about her and they said, oh, we'll go get her in the morning. I'm like, she'll be dead. So we drove all night in the bush, picked her up. She was pregnant, took her to the hospital, paid the bill. She got better. So we called the baby Insoka, which is snake baby, because she survived that snake. So I'm out there preaching and I see the snake baby there. I look down while I'm preaching. And she had this little cloth pouch on her neck. And I knew what that was. I was aggravated. I reached down and grabbed that little necklace, and I was going to snatch it off. Because it was a little tiny little black thread. I thought it was thread. It was not. It was that rubber, and it don't break. I snatched the whole kid off the ground. Because I didn't know it was that rubber stuff, right? Kids crying, and they're looking at me. Wow, the missionary's really upset. So I finally got the thing off her neck, and I opened it up, and there's little bones inside of it. Now, I know what that is. And I looked at her, and I said, hey, how about the next time you get bit by a snake, instead of calling me in the middle of the night, see what this can do for you. I said, why is this on this kid? She said, so that I was told that if my child wears this, he won't get diarrhea and die, and that this will keep the evil spirits from him. Dead serious. So they don't play around with it over there. When Ackham came over for Halloween and he saw that we had skeletons in our stores, he was very bothered by that. He said, if I put that skeleton in my yard, they would burn my house down because they would call me a witch. Because to them, that's like no bueno. That's like, you don't mess with that. They don't even joke about it. Because for them, that woman believes so much in it, she doesn't want her baby to get sick. So what do they say about costumes? If you wear these costumes and you do these things, that you won't be harmed. Food was prepared for the living, and some was left outside to appease the wandering spirits. You want anything to do with wandering spirits? No. Christian influence, if you can call it that. All Saints' Day. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st. May I tell you something? You can't recycle something that's not recyclable. Right? Okay, there are plenty of holidays, things in the Bible that you can associate with Christianity that you don't have to go and hijack something from the world. All Saints' Day in the 8th century, Pope Gregory II designated November 1st as a time to honor all Christian saints and martyrs. This day became known as All Hallows' Day, but that's not where it got its roots from. All Souls' Day, November 2nd, was later established as All Souls' Day, a day of commemorating the faithful departed. The merging, the evening before All Hallows' Day, was the All Hallows' Eve, the eve of the Holy Day. Over time, All Hallows' Eve evolved into Halloween. Jack-o'-lanterns, this tradition originated in Ireland, where people originally carved faces into turnips and potatoes and placed candles inside. This was based on the folk tale of Stingy Jack and was meant to ward off evil spirits. Irish immigrants brought the custom to North America, where the native plentiful pumpkins became the carving vegetable of choice. So that is history. Now, so we have a little bit of Bible, we got some history. The question is this something, how should a Christian deal with Halloween? Right? How should, what's typical for a non-believer to do? And now look, I did this when I was Halloween, when I wasn't living right. We'd go out and alcohol was definitely involved, and we'd go watch as many scary movies. Freddy Krueger, you name it, we'd stack them up for hours. Somebody cutting people up in pieces is disturbing. I wouldn't want to live next door to Stephen King. Anybody wants to live next door to Stephen King? No, the guy's a nut, right? The Saw movies, ooh, wee. Those are just messed up. Why would you do that, right? So here's a question we got to ask ourselves. Are we unknowingly, where we try to say, well, it's for kids, but we're walking them past all this stuff that's clearly not okay? Right? So the question is that the right thing? And am I being, or are people being is that over-exaggerating? Well, just look around you. See if you get peace about it. Does it warm your soul? Does it encourage you? Does it enlighten you? Right? Those would all be, and our kids really don't need, nobody in this county needs candy that bad. Right? I mean, believe me, parents, if you're going to like me, you're going to throw it away the next day. You're thinking, you ain't eating all this, right? And then half that stuff's not even, it's, right? And then you got to think, could I possibly? So what the devil knows, and I've got a bunch of other verses. The devil knows once you get into the tribulation period, there's going to be some things people are going to be bothered by. Okay? And I told you before, what about the spot in the Bible where it says that when those things come out and bite you, those scorpions, when they bite you, it lasts for 7 months. It doesn't go away. But the people who don't get the mark, they can't get bit. So all these hideaway believers that came to Christ during the tribulation, God gives them a little bit of grace, and during that time period, they can't get bit by these scorpions. They've got immunity. Meanwhile, the rest of society, these things are coming out and they're biting them, and the pain is so bad, the Bible says that they try to kill themselves and they can't. What does that mean to you? All right? So what does that mean? You ever thought about it when you read that? What does it mean? They tried to kill themselves, but they couldn't. All right? So use your imagination and let's talk about it. What do you think happens? So does it happen this way? Let's throw out some scenarios. This thing bit me. I'm like, I've had enough of this. I can't stand this pain. I'm going to kill myself. So I crawl on top of a 3-story building and I jump down. God said they try to do it and they cannot do it. So does that mean I can jump off the building, hit the ground, get back up and perfect? Well, because I'd be doing that all day. I'm like, hey, kind of fun, right? Go stand in front of a truck, boom, get back up again, look. All right, that's one scenario. What's the next scenario? You do it, you break your leg, you fracture your back, you bust your head open, but you're not dead. And you can't die. You take a gun, does a bullet bounce off your head? Or does it take half your skull with you? And you're still alive. So which one would you vote? How many votes you can jump off? Oh, now, this is the Bible. I'm not making any of this up. When you read it, you got to ask, what does it mean? How many believe you're just going to be able to jump and nothing happens to you? Nana believes you can jump off a building and nothing will happen to you. You the other side. Okay, she's the other one. Does anybody believe you can jump off a building and nothing happen to you in that story? So then the only choice left is you got these people walking around that look like they're dead, but they're not dead. Where have you seen that before? The Night of the Living Dead, zombie apocalypse, and all these things. What is that doing to you? Desensitizing. You're going to see some very demonic and evil activity during the tribulation period, because who's in charge? The devil himself. So if he can get us to walk our children past things that would normally be scary, to be around things that would be disturbing normally, to hear things other than God, and hear names of angels and fallen deities, and a power outside other than God. If we can get them comfortable in that realm, they're not going to be as frightened. Their guard's not going to be up. Why? Because they're already used to it. They've been desensitized over and over and over and over and over again, and that would just be a normal thing. So as we and it's just getting a lot darker, right? I mean, they're getting bolder. I mean, before it was a jack-o'-lantern. Now we got 14-foot tall things out there, and it's like, whoo-wee, in haunted houses. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, because, and I'll tell you, that the more I do this, the more I rethink it. My kids have gone to a haunted house. Now, you think about the principle of it afterwards. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I'm just being honest with you. We worry about our children all over the place, right? In a haunted house, I don't know who's behind those doors. The people who do those kinds of things can be a little disturbed. Can I pray and ask God to keep my kids safe in a haunted house? No, he's probably going to ask me, why in the world are you letting them do it? Right? Probably can't pray that prayer. So it makes you stop by and think, do we have any business even going there? Right? Is that something that we should have a business doing? And can I go in there and one of these days you're going to find out somebody really does have a chainsaw in there, right? You know, would you expect that? No. Are there wackos in this world? Yes. Right? You know, that's when you walk in those places, you're not going to say, oh boy, I feel the Spirit of God in here. Right? You're not going to say that. You know? So then you know you are in there on your own. Right? And if you want to Google, just go home and say in your King James Bible, how many times is the word witch mentioned, and just read it. From the Old Testament to the New Testament to the book of Revelation. Then go in there and say, how many times is the word sorcery mentioned? And then just go through it. It'll be in the Old Testament and New Testament. And it will continue to add to what I've already done. It'll just add to it. If that's not enough evidence, just go look and ask yourself, are there real witches in the world today? According to the Bible, yes. I have no indication that that's ever changed. Okay? All right? So I do believe that. Are there witches' covenants in this area? Apparently there's one in Rugby. Why would they put it in Rugby? What is Rugby? Arnold, what's Rugby? An English, Irish influenced settlement, right? From that part of the world. Why would a witch's covenant feel comfortable there? Because of the roots. Right? It just happens to be like this old English enclave. What did they bring over with them? That's why it would be there. Right? Okay? And same way when you trace back to Salem. Same type of heritage, same type of ancestors, you can trace it back over. And all of a sudden, that's really real. Witches can work. Are there Christians you work with? Well, you can work with witches too. A witch, think of a witch as a Christian, but on the opposite team. They're faithful to their services. They pay attention to their practices. They have their rituals. They have their beliefs. In the dark world. And they're all over. And then you've got the Christians, and we're embody the Holy Spirit and Jesus in us. And do you not think that there's people walking? This woman had a familiar spirit. Do you think you've ever met somebody that has a familiar spirit? Well, sure. Especially if you go to things like that, you're definitely going to bump into them, right? You know, that because they gravitate towards that. This is, and I don't make this up. Do you know what the Satanic Church's version of Christmas is? October 31st. Right? Well, go figure. It's the night that the veil between the two realms gets the thinnest, and the fairies and the witches and the demons come back and forth. Well, that would be the night you'd want to do it, right? You know? And you read that and you think, whew, you know, now most of my problems in my life spiritually, the things that have hurt me the most, is when I did not take, when I was little, I did not pay attention to the jokes that I told. I thought they were just harmless jokes, Arnold. I didn't know one day I wouldn't want to remember them. I didn't know that that stuff would attach itself to you. And you'd battle it. I didn't know that. I was 12. I didn't know that the music I listened to had an influence over me. I thought it was just music, Gretchen. I didn't know that it could open portholes to hell. I mean, people talked about it, but I didn't take that serious. You know? And then you think, well, why in the world why is it so difficult to do right? Because I got all this baggage. So, in 10 years, will there be anybody preaching a message like this? I just don't want it to die. I mean, every parent, and listen, I promise you, if I meet you out there and your kid's trick-or-treating, I'm not going to go, ho, ho, ho. No, I'm not going to do that. Okay? Not at all. You don't have to hide from me, you know, in Walmart while you're buying the cotton. You don't have to do that. Look, because I got my own issues, right? You don't have to do that. I am not the Halloween police. All I wanted to do was just remind us, you make your own decision. And I'll honor that. Right? 100%. If you say, hey, I prayed about it and Lord gave me peace, well, I'm not going to tell you no. I don't have that authority anyway. Right? But it's more or less to just revisit it and say, I wonder if there's any validity. Because what I read to you was either history or the Bible. Right? So I didn't make any of it up. And I don't really have an agenda. Other than I looked by that today when I was going to Brockton, and I thought, how do we get 14-foot tall skeletons? And then what's next? Right? I mean, you know, why are we okay with this? Poor guy. You wouldn't sell your house right now. Whoever lives across the street, it's not going to put it up for sale right now. Right? Because they're going to say, that's my neighbor. All right, Hunter, close us in prayer, would you?